It's like Paris in the 50s, you know, with these jazz clubs and all these young people that are into changes, you know, and are open to Western Europe, you know, and interesting. But it's changing very fast, and with this new government, I don't know.
Yeah. I remember it from Soviet times. The first time I saw Warsaw, it was like 1990, like 89, and it was
heavy.
It was heavy, yeah. It was like very dark, you know, like Lynch films, you know, Lynch.
Yeah,
he likes it very much, the Warsaw, because it's such a setting, you know, for the movie. You have like, you don't need to do anything; they're already there. This atmosphere, you know, of kind of dark, dark oppression.
Oh yeah, yeah. Of course, what a history.
Okay, so Niels, you tell me how you end up in Crocq.
Oh well, that's. Because I was looking for a place in the country, because we were living in Rauwgoord, in a little village near Amsterdam. I had been living there for almost 30 years, and I had gotten used. It's not really country life, but it was close to Amsterdam, and around Rauwgoord was a complete open land that in the beginning was just sand, because they wanted to build a whole industrial area on it. But because that didn't happen and it was lying there for 20 years, all wild nature was growing up there. And so the nature was so abundant that I could walk from my house in a jungle, you know. And I had horses there, and in the morning I got on a horse and I could ride for hours in just open, wild, open land. And so when we had to go, when finally Amsterdam got so far that they took over the village, we were offered a house in Amsterdam. But I was so used to living in the country and having my horses that I thought, okay, I was over 65, I had stopped working for theater and doing other work that I needed to be in Holland for. I thought, now I'm just going, I'm getting out of here. I'm not gonna live in Amsterdam in a house. And so I started looking first in Poland, because the land was cheap there, and I was looking for a house with a lot of land, because I had all these dreams of buying horses and breeding horses, etc. And but yeah, it turned out that even though the houses were very cheap, first of all, even if a house costs 20,000 euros, you have to have 20,000 euros. And I didn't have that. And so I looked in Portugal. In Portugal, I had been there several times, and I liked the country very much. But that was also a bit the same. And finally, I ended up in the south of France, in the Aude. And you could buy there a pile of stones for 20 or no, it was more like 50,000 euros. You could buy a pile of stones on 10 hectares of land. But in the summer, you didn't have any water, you know. And so one day, I drove back with Astrid. We drove, we took another road than we usually did. We went by the Lac de Vassivière and ended up somewhere around Bourganeuf, and it was pouring rain, and nowhere was a place to put up our tent. So I was looking for a possibility. There were not even hotels, you know, there was nothing, possibility to sleep. And then I saw a sign for centre équestre, a stable. And I thought, oh, usually in these stables they have a dormitory, you have a place where you can sleep. So that it turned out to be so. So I got, we got a place there, very comfortable. We were just the two of us, and we had a big place and a bathroom and all the comfort. And we got to know these people very well because it was quiet. We were the only people there, and we made friends. And I went riding every day with the guy from the stable. And they said, why don't you stay here? You know, if you're looking for a place, they said, these houses are very cheap here. And so when I came back in Holland, I was talking with a girl, and she said, my father lives around there. And that's how I got to know Benoit. And that was her father, who lived here in the Creuse already for many years. And so he was the first contact. So I got to know him, and through him I could rent a house, and I brought my horses over to here and rented that house for the first year. And from there I found the place that I have now. So it's a long story for a short question, but I'm always very long in stories, so.
No, it's okay. Maybe you will tell what you think about what is art for you? What is the painting for you? Just, I mean, it's very general, but still, you have your personal approach to it. Like, what do you think painting is?
Well, that is actually very simple. I mean, I think people are born with an attitude toward a certain aspect of life. And I think that one is more focused on hearing and another more focused on seeing. And for literature, okay, it's another way of experiencing life. But I think a painter is somebody who especially experiences his life through what he sees, through the eyes. You know. So painting is seeing, you know, and seeing not only from outside, but between outside and inside.
Mm-hmm. And for this exhibition, like, what kind of message or idea you have, especially for this time, for this exhibition? Did you have some special idea, like why you choose the works like this, or it is just happened, like because of the space only, or you have something like idea in mind to create particularly for this type of exhibition what we have? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, but I didn't make works especially for this exhibition, you know. But one of the typical aspects of my painting is monumentality, I would say. You know, I studied at the academy monumental, what they call monumental arts, wall paintings, mosaics, and but in that time, you know, but my work in relation to architecture and in big sizes, big grand format. So I like to see my work as a sign, almost, you know, almost a semiotic sign in a space, but also in an urban situation, you know, or maybe even in a landscape, you know. And so I like to work big and to create works that draw the attention, that, like I'm saying, in a semiotic way, you know, somewhere a gesture from your unconsciousness to the outside world, you know, in the shape of a sign. You know. That's a bit, and when we got here the opportunity for this big space, I chose what I had on works, big works, you know, and that, even though that typical aspect in my work is always there, that there are strong forms that draw the attention, like almost like posters, you know. Sometimes a poster is very close to one of my paintings, you know. And, but especially these bigger works have that aspect more in it than maybe smaller works. So I was very happy to be able to show these works in such a space. And I'm you know, in that way, I'm jealous about people like Ansel Kiefer, who can make works of 10 meters or more, you know, and that they built especially a gallery for him, you know, like to put his works in. Like I've heard this highway, but I would love to make 20 highways, you know, and bigger than this one. You know, this one is 4.5 meters, but I'd like to make a highway of 10 meters, 20 meters. You know.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Kiefer, you saw a lot, like different periods of time in the art scene. So what you're feeling about what is going on now? What is your feeling about the situation with the art? Or maybe with the painting or within the art, whatever.
Well, if you ask me, I personally have the feeling, if it's true, I don't know, but I have the feeling that we are coming to the end of let's call it the conceptuality in art. You know, there is from the let's say from the moment that the photography took over the function of showing the world, and the artists, the painters are more yeah, yeah, you formulated it once so nice.
About the painting.
Yeah, but that performance is more important than the reproduction of the reality. Something. I can't find.
No, representation.
Representation
is
more
than presentation. Yes.
Yeah, presentation is more important than representation. Okay, that has led to fantastic painting and to painting where the painting has become much more important than the representation. And that makes me think always of the famous words of Magritte, ceci n'est pas une pipe. That is drawing of a pipe, and he says that's not a pipe. So from that moment on, painting has become a thing in itself, like music is, and like literature is. So it has become something that people do who are fascinated by color, by rhythms of color, by forms, can be crazy about black or can be crazy about white or whatever, you know. And on a certain moment, what I call that conceptuality has come in it and started to create situations that are in itself extremely interesting as a form of art, but that has nothing to do with that strange disease that painting is, you know. And so I think that painting is going to come back, like it has come back already several times with the new wild ones, etc. And it gives me the strength because I have many times in my life I've been on the point that I thought, my God, what am I doing? You know, what is this ridiculous thing that I'm doing with a bit of paint on a piece of paper or canvas or whatever, you know. But the last 10, 15 years, I begin to paint with a real belief in my painting again. That's the gesture I have to make, you know. And also, even that's going so far that I sometimes regret that I've spent time on doing other things with my painting, you know, that I spent time on making theater, or because the painting, a lifetime is not at all long enough, you know, if you want to find out what painting really means, you know. And then you don't have time for anything else, you know. It's this fantastic old art teacher. Nobody seems to know him, Robert Henry. In 1915, did he tell his students that if you're really painting, you have no time to do anything else. So, in the contrary, all these people that I've said in the time that in Holland, the artists were subsidized by the government to do their work, and that the government said, yeah, you studied to be an artist, so you have a job. You're not somebody who's looking for a job, and if your job doesn't pay, we pay you. Okay, it's good thinking. But the people who are against it, they said, no, they can do that, and at the same time, they can take another job, and do that together. I don't believe that at all. Okay, there are examples of very strong people who have become great artists and still were able to do another job. But I think because painting, being a visual artist, asks so much time, also besides the fact that you're really creating something in your studio, you have to network, you have to go to places, you have to see people, if they say, yeah, you have to sell your work, okay, then you need time to do that. I know that Rob Scholte, I think it was the Dutch artist who said, yeah, what are these Dutch artists complaining because they don't sell the works? He says, where are they when there's an opening of the Biennale in Venice or in Paris and all these big exhibitions where you have to meet the people you want to buy your paintings, Yeah, it's true, He's the American artist in New York. You read about Willem de Koning, how much time he spent in bed with Peggy Guggenheim. Oh, you have to cut that out. No, but not everybody knows that. But you have to spend time on that also, Of course.
Yeah. Okay. But what about the public? I mean, is the public change within 20, 30 years? What do you think? Or is the same reaction on the painters, on what's going on, like, because for me it's not that clear, because I didn't see for a long time, for such a long time, maybe like you. I'm more like into music, and also I know about musical public, what's happened. But what about the art public, the public which is normally react on the artist? Is it the same? Is it always the same, or is it changed?
It changed. In the time my father was a painter, as you know, and time that he was active as a painter. There are two kinds of public. If he was, because he painted often after nature, and he had this little easel outside with a canvas on, he was painting, that he could expect from the Dutch people, usually the farmers in the country, when they passed that they were yelling at him and saying nasty things, and even once they threw a brick through his canvas, and kids throwing stones, etc. And he always told us that was very different in France. In France, they came to look at this painting, and if he was making watercolors, that they run away to bring fresh water, etc., etc. But You had also another type of public in Holland. They were the snobs. They were the people who found it interesting to be seen with an artist and who liked to. They knew that many artists liked to drink, and so they met them in bars, and the artists never had money, and so they paid for their drinks, and often these artists had 3 women with them, so that was also nice for these people, and so these people they could sit there for hours and even for days with these artists and promise them to buy their paintings. And these artists came home and they said, oh, such and such a person is coming tomorrow and he's going to buy all my paintings and make me famous. And of course, these people never came, so that was also typical for the public. Of course, there was also serious public that was really interested in the arts and paid for it. But in the time that I grew up and studied art, this changed completely. The artists became how do you say that, more sure of themselves or better organized. They had a very good artist union, and the artist union protected artists from all these kind of things. They created rules that if somebody said, I'm going to buy that painting, that you could say, you have to give me already some money, so that these people were kind of obliged to really do what they were saying, etc., and at certain prices for I made wall paintings, and I remember that I asked a certain amount of money for a painting, and that I got a letter from the government saying, you should look in the last salaries have gone up, so your price is too low, etc., these kind of things. And so after that, what they call the BKR, that's the regulation visual arts, to make it possible for artists to have at least a basis to live on. So they bought from everyone who claims to be an artist or who can prove in some way to be an artist. They buy, for instance, 3 paintings, and these 3 paintings, they pay 6,000. And there were still guilders in that time, but okay, let's say 6,000 euros. And with these 6,000 euros, you had to live 8 months. So that is very, very little. That's in fact the social security level, because people nowadays, they say, yeah, in that time, these artists. No, but the only thing what was interesting, these 6,000 euros they gave you in your hand. You got the 6,000 euros, but only after 8 months you could ask them again to buy something. So a lot of people with the 6,000 euros, they went to India or to Portugal, where you could live from 300 euros a month, you could live like a prince, you know. So, in that time, these artists, they became much more self-supporting. They didn't have to go to bars to get a drink from a rich person who tells them, oh yeah, I come by painting, you know, which was very, very important for the artists and for their self-esteem was incredibly important. Many, many artists in that time have found themselves, let's say, you know, it's true that they wouldn't have been artists maybe if they hadn't had a chance to continue painting or doing other forms of art like that. And nowadays, they say in Holland, yeah, in that time there were many artists, they made quickly something, you know, to sell it, and then they were just lying at the beach in Portugal or whatever, you know. I think that's all bullshit, you know. That's, if you want to talk about the negative aspects of things, then you can kill any initiative, you know. And if I see a bad theater show, I can say, this theater, that's shit, you know. Or I see a bad musical performance, I can say, this music, they shouldn't pay a penny to the music, you know. And of course there have been maybe artists that they did these things, but so what if they can make in 5 minutes something that they can sell? So why not, you know? That is their thing. I personally have never gone to these other countries for longer periods than maybe 1 or 2 months, you know, because I had this feeling that I had to make my art in Holland, you know, because that's where I was living, that's where my money came from, and I had strong feeling that I had to create in the place, that I didn't have to go to another place to create things and then sell them in Holland, because Holland was paying for it, you know. So, but sorry, my story is how long, but the attitude of the people changed completely. The general public didn't say anymore, these nice artists, you know, and you're a good artist, you know, or you're a bad artist. No. They said these artists, they called them in Dutch uitvreters, you know, the people who eat out the money from the state, you know. There are 5,000 artists in Holland who are paid by the government, you know, and nobody gets angry about the starfighters or whatever that they buy from their money, but that they buy art, yeah, that was a big thing. So these artists, they became terrible, you know. Just, again, they had a reason to say that they didn't buy that art anymore. And what is worse, and that was the bad side of that BKR, that the galleries didn't buy anymore because nobody could pay the prices that were paid by the government, because the government, they took such a painting, they paid, let's say, 8,000 euros for such a painting. In the gallery, I couldn't get that. I could get maximum 4,000 for it. But the government said, yeah, this guy has to be able to live a year from it, otherwise we have to buy 3 paintings, and where are we going to put all these paintings, because that has become another problem, finally, So to stack up all these paintings. Yeah, I didn't make them on paper like now, so you couldn't roll them. That would have been better. But so, these galleries, they didn't buy any more from Dutch people. They started, and in the galleries, in the first place, about 80% of the galleries stopped, and the galleries that were left over, they, okay.